I'm Doug, and I like to do the ba-boom.
We hope you liked the open and enjoyed seeing all those great hitters. But also we wanted to lay the base and show you how we think rotational hitting is better for consistency and power. Now you can't take a knife and cut it down the middle and say this is tomahawk, this is rotational. While there are differences, they blend together, and it's just two terms we use to kind of describe the different styles. Now today we aren't going to make this a physics class and break down every little thing. Our objective is to get the feeling for it. And if we can open the idea or open up the doors of thought to you so that you think, yes, I never thought about trying that before, and that takes you to the next level, then we're going to be successful. Now we've been at a lot of awesome parks and some real interesting festivals in the taping of this video. But today, to make a point, I'm taping this in our garage. I've got it set up as a batting cage, just to show you can do the drills and develop the swing basics by doing it in your backyard. You don't have to be at a fancy park. You can do it at work. You can do it in your garage, your basement. And certainly by developing the skills within a couple of weeks is all it took me to go from this swing that I had 20 years ago. This is a swing that I had at Softball Magazine spring training last year, and this is the swing I have today. And if I can erase 35 years of muscle memory that quickly, we know that this swing is natural, it's correct, and you're going to be able to do it just as fast. We call it the ba-boom drill because first of all we want to use a term that's easy to use. Simply it describes the winding and unwinding of the lower body and the upper body. The ba can stand for the real relaxed wind, ba, and the stretch out. And the boom is a term that gives you that idea of the explosion. Boom. So when we put them together, you can also use it as a timing. You can go ba, boom, an explosion. Now the ba portion simply winds up the lower body. We get in our stance, and again, individual stances vary, but we want to have the weight on the front of our feet. I start in a balanced stance. You'll see that some of the guys on the rear foot, some of the pro guys, build up a mound of dirt so that they have the weight shifted to the inside in front of the foot. I like to do that because it feels like you get the weight on the inside of the knee, and anyhow, it gives you an opportunity to drive off a little bit better. But simply get in your stance, and the first thing you do is go ahead and bring your knee back. And that starts the winding of the hips. As you understand, the hips are the strongest part of your body, the lower body, the hips, the legs. So simply wind up, and then as you get the weight shifted to the back leg on the wind, this is the ba portion, you get the weight shifted on the leg, weight's on the inside of the foot, and then you go ahead and you reach ahead. You let the body come ahead. You don't just stride ahead, but you hold your body vertical, and you reach ahead and land on your toe with your foot closed to 3/4. That way you've kept all the weight on your back leg, and you can feel tension from the inside of your foot, up the inside of your leg, and I feel like there's a lot of power right here, almost like I have a fist right at my hip point. So again, the ba portion, which is the pre-swing and the winding of the lower body, is ba, and you come ahead. And again, just lightly land on your front foot, almost like you're landing on an egg. Now once you put the boom together with it, they'll flow together, but simply from the side here, I'll go ahead and turn, and I'll go ba, and you'll see that my upper body and shoulder turn in as well. But really on this drill, we're focusing more so on the lower body. Ba. So let's go back to the side now. The second portion of that is the explosion, the boom. Whereas the ba is a slow winding and stretch, almost like pulling a rubber band back. You feel that tight coiling. There's not a lot of tension, but you do feel a built-up tightness like winding a spring or pulling a rubber band. On the ba, we come ahead. Now, our weight is shifted ahead a little bit to wind our base out and to give us a little body momentum going forward. And on the boom, we simply drive the heel down. This leg is going to be a brace, and this hip is going to drive backwards a little bit, but really what we're going to try to do is get this weight and this power that's on the back leg, and we're going to use the push off the inside of the back foot to drive the hip open and deliver a rotational thrust. Boom. So again, if I think of having a fist on my hip here, I go ba, and then boom. It's a very tight rotation. And you notice that the back foot drags up as we rotate. And that's because this hip is moving while the foot initially pushes the hip open. It wants to follow afterwards because the hips will be freewheeling. One way that people do it wrong, some rec players, is I see them press, not push. By that I mean we go ba, and then they feel like it's a press all the way open. They feel like they have to have constant push off the back foot in order to hit. That's a mistake. What you do is you simply start the rotation of the hip with the rear foot as you come off the toe, come up with the heel, and that pushes it open initially, and then it's a combination of the hard twist, the torque between the front hip and the back that gives you that tight rotation. So simply we've developed this Ba-Boom. It's a nice tight rotation of the lower body. You're going to see that we progress on, but everything starts with the lower body. Again, you can do 3 sets of 5 to drill it. Ba, boom, and then simply put it all together. Ba, boom. How far ahead you step on your stride, on your reach step, is determined by how much body momentum you want to get forward. That becomes a critical factor. If you go too far, you can lunge ahead and get the weight off of here too early. It's a critical timing thing, but smaller guys like Josh Foster and Scott Dooley take a little bit more step. They want to get all the body momentum forward. So there's a fine line between. I'm a bigger guy. I don't need to use it as much, so simply I try to keep mine more compact. Ba-Boom. Our second drill involves the use of a bat and a guide rope. We stretch this guide rope across, and this signifies the path of our desired swing. This is level or slightly up. Now when you swing and hit an ASA or USSSA, or where I play high arc, you'll see that this swing angle is level or slightly up, and the ball comes down at an angle about like this. So you can see you're naturally going to get a cut. Just by swinging level, you're going to get a cut, and you're generally speaking going to cut the bottom half of the ball. Now the higher the arc, and the more radical the pitch comes in, you might want to change your swing angle a little bit so you aren't having such a glancing blow. In high arc, where I play, unlimited arc, they throw as high as 30 feet, and that ball comes down like this. So certainly you want it to land in front of you, but you may swing up a little bit more so that you can match the angle a little bit closer and not have such a glancing, cleaving blow. But basically speaking, for ASA and USSSA, we put the guide rope across, we grab the bat, and we grab it shoulder width apart, bring it right to our hip points, and we hold it tight there. And basically we just do the Ba-Boom, which we already did. And this way here, we swing over the top of the rope with the Ba-Boom, ba, and we get the feel of this hip explosion, this rotational thrust, pushing the bat head over the top of the rope and through the ball. This drill does 2 things. It reinforces that feeling of getting a rotational thrust. Now, even though our front hip drives back and we get a nice hard twist, we'd rather concentrate on delivering that thrust forward and using this more as a block rather than driving backwards, because we want to deliver the bat head around. So simply, you get in your stance, you go ba, and you push the bat head along the top of the rope and really get the feeling of exploding this through the ball. Ba, boom. The second thing that this drill does automatically without thinking, and we've already done it here, is it helps set the body angle and the hip angle. Whatever angle your hips open at is the angle your upper body is going to follow in the swing. For instance, if I swing down with the hips, the upper body is going to follow down. So it only makes sense that if we drill this, we're going to automatically learn that we want to be vertical or slightly back on our angle so that we can swing level or slightly up. Ba, boom. Doesn't matter if you're on the top or bottom of the rope, just so you're parallel to the rope. Again, ba, boom. As we progress on to the third drill, we've already learned how to wind up the lower body, set the proper body angle, and deliver that explosive thrust. Now what we do is grab the bat, and we're going to finish the job by learning how to wind up the upper body and get to the launch position. That's what baseball guys use the term to describe the position of the body right before you explode with the swing. Simply get in that stance, and as we do the ba, you'll notice that the hands want to dip down a little bit. It's a little bit of a rhythm, a little bit of a timing. As long as you don't use too much motion, that's great. It helps you time, ba. As you come ahead, you notice the hands come back. Not only is the upper body wound up or counter-rotated or coiled, but the hands pull back and wind the upper body up. You can have flexibility in this arm to different degrees, but as far back as you can go, you're going to have the hands back and will explode ahead farther when you unwind the swing. From the side again, it's going to look like this. I get in my stance, again I go ba, hands back. You'll notice my shoulders still facing the pitcher. My upper body's wound, my lower body's wound. I have a tight tension between the two, and I'm ready to explode. Why you think 5% on the ba and 100% on the boom. The last drill is the most fun, and that's the 5-part swing drill. And there we're in the launch position, and we simply go ahead and we deliver the swing. First of all, you start out in your position with your ba. So we get back in our stance. ba. I'm in the launch position. Understanding now that the first thing you do is drive off the inside of the back foot and the hips start to open. That's your hips. Then you're still back in the launch position, and you'll see on a lot of pro guys and a lot of good swings that they're still sometimes drawing the hands back as the hips start open. Again, that is due to the slack between the stomach muscles and the back muscles. It's more of a slingshot effect, and it gives you even more power. But simply for demonstrating the 5 parts of the swing, we're going to start with the hips open. The next thing you want to do, and this is the biggest key that I've made a change on my own swing and that a lot of rec guys don't understand. Whereas you're getting a great rotational thrust and your top hand is pushing, in the old days of the tomahawk swing and in some of our other videos, the pros said the bottom hand guides and the top hand drives. I've come to the conclusion from talking to the guys using the rotational swing, and of course learning it myself, that guide is way too passive of a term. When I get to this position here, I find that the rear hip and the top hand are on autopilot. They're pushing on their own. I don't even have to think about them because we've drilled it so much. And because you have a blocking portion of your front hip here, and you're driving backwards and blocking, you're going to have a nice tight rotation of the lower body. Now, because we want to keep the upper body on the same plane, and we want to rotate just as tight, we don't have the luxury of a block here. So what we have to do is really pull the lead shoulder open. And so thus, the combination of those factors make us go ahead and pull the lead shoulder open, pull the lead arm, the tricep, the forearm, and we pull the knob of the bat directly towards the center or bottom half of the ball. Leave the wrists loose, and you'll find that the top hand and hip will continue to rotate open this whole time, and you'll go to snap, snap to contact. Again, that's that tremendous lag from lag back. Again, that's that tremendous snap from lag back to contact with the ball. Hands are palms down, palms up. As your hips continue to push open, you continue to rotate, you continue to pull with the lead shoulder. You'll blast right through the ball to full extension. At full extension, both arms are fully extended. You're in that V shape. The hips are open. The end of the bat's pointing right at the pitcher, and then you just have a nice natural finish. So certainly those are the 5 steps, and the key there is to lead pull. Again, we'll go through them again. Get in that position. Ba. Hips fire first. They push open, and then we use that rotational push. The stomach muscles have engaged. We're starting to feel a push on the upper body. We pull right towards the center or bottom of the ball. And then we continue to push with the hips and the upper body and the top hand. We find a snap, and then full extension and a relaxed finish. Now there's a big key here on the wrists. You can do the wrists 1 or 2 ways, and this is where grip becomes very important. You'll notice that I have an overlap grip. And some of the guys talked before, and some of the guys will talk after me. Krug, some of the other guys will demonstrate different grips that they use, but the real benefit of the overlap grip, and I simply am doing the same thing that the baseball purists have always say, line up the knuckles, but I simply grab over the top here. Grip that I copied many years ago, and I also grab my little finger, put my little finger over the bottom as I grip the bat like this. And this simply enables my wrist to be much looser. And when it comes time, when I get to full extension, if you leave no tension in the wrist, and all that force is going forward, the bat has to whip around. And it does so very easily. And it whips through contact to full extension. As Ray DeMarini said in one of his videos, you want to accelerate through the ball. That's not always probably possible, but it's a thought process you have so you don't stop at contact. Now, that being said, the second thing you have to understand is that there's a wrist position change. When I get to full extension and I go to contact, people look at that and say, the wrists haven't changed position. They're still in the palm down, palm up position. But I'm going to show you something that will describe why the wrists have to change a little bit, and I call it an oversnap. If I hold this totally palm down with my lead hand and push, you can see the bat wants to stop there. And that's because this wrist can only flex so far when it's in a palm down position. I can swing hard or push hard and the bat wants to stop. What you have to do is, even though the wrist is in palm down at contact, it has to be turned in a little bit. And you'll see if I turn it down just a little bit, then it can rotate all the way around. I call it a little bit of an oversnap. You're actually trying to roll it, I guess, a little bit early. The wrists don't true have a true rollover until after contact, but just by turning that down, almost like if I had a watch on my wrist and I turn it towards the pitch a little bit, instead of being here, by turning it down, it flicks right around. So that's called an over snap. And so your snap of the bat from lag back to and through contact can be achieved by two ways. You can leave the wrist totally loose so that when you explode to full extension, they just snap over. Or I prefer to do a little bit of an over snap, and I simply from the start of my swing, I try to torque this wrist a little bit. I try to crank on it a little bit as I'm extending. Understanding that this is such a dynamic pull and force forward that you can't roll ahead of the pull forward, but I'm trying to, and that just means I'm putting some tension on here so that when this wrist reaches full extension, it's going to quickly snap around. So without the rope, we go ba, hips, pull, snap, and finish. We start to blend those together. Ba, hips, pull, finish. Ba, finish. Pretty soon we can simply just go ba, boom. You started with the ba-boom on the first drill, you end with the ba-boom. It's very simple, you see it makes a lot of sense naturally, and now we progress on to the tee and to live hitting. I think you can see the simplicity is the beauty of this system, and instinctively you're learning how to progress on from the hips to the upper body, finally delivering the bat head through the ball. Again, on the 5-part swing drill, try it both ways, but for me and a lot of the guys I've worked with, I really feel like that focus of pulling the upper body around with the rotation off of the rear hip, you already automatically have that explosive thrust and top hand push. If you guide, and again, don't think a guide is being so passive, but if you guide properly by pulling the upper body to keep it on the same plane as the lower body, to give it a very tight rotation and to transfer that power you've developed in your hips up through the upper body. And if you guide properly by pulling with the lead shoulder, and again, using the over snap so that the wrist properly will let the bat whip around and deliver a good snap from lag back to contact, that you find that you've been able to understand the swing and get a feel for it. Again, when I step up to the plate now, all I focus on pretty much is simply winding, and then right away as my hips start to push open, I pull with the upper body, the lead shoulder, the arm. I try to really turn this wrist over early in the swing so that when my hips and the upper body catch up, I get a great snap through the ball. And I'm able to cut the ball because I can really pull the hand and the knob more towards the bottom. And because I have an angle back slightly, I'm going to cut it and I'm going to put it up in the air. You want to make sure that you have the proper position of your sweet spot with the position of the ball. And you have to have your hips open in order to get the proper position. If your hips are closed and you just reach your bat head out, you're going to notice where the Mizuno is in respect to the evil ball. And as I turn my hips open, you'll see the bat creeps this way some. So simply have your hips open and have the ball placed just out ahead of your body. Simply then get back in your stance, do the ba, and then boom. So when I go out and I try to develop a home run style power hitting stroke, I try to see if I can hit 8 out of 10 good fly balls, balls with underspin, balls that have the proper trajectory, balls that would carry over a fence. Ba, boom. Ba, boom. Lastly, progress on again to the live pitching, and here's where your muscle memory takes over. You want to swing at a level to slide up angle, and from doing the tee work, from doing the bat on the rope drill, it should all flow automatically. You'll have that one focus that you develop. Again, mine is simply to pull that lead shoulder and to go ahead and over snap the lead wrist. Everything else is going to thrust hard, and I should get a good snap up through the ball trying to hit a underspin home run type ball. That's going to enable my upper body to turn tighter and keep it the same angle and at the same spin speed as the lower body. Again here, if I can get that nice easy stretch of the rubber band, still keep my upper body back, but when I go to deliver the swing, deliver it with a hard explosive opening in the hips but a hard pull, and pull the hand right towards the bottom of the ball and make sure I over snap it so I get that nice snap through it. Don't try to drag around and lift it up in the air. Let your body angle set that proper angle, and you just cut the bottom half of it and try to snap it through. Let my rotation bring the swing around.